Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Welcome to RMIT. Congratulations on finding your way here. We do like to make it challenging. I've been told that the numbers of the buildings at RMIT are in the order in which the buildings were purchased. So if you're ever wondering why there is no logic to them, that's the reason. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here to RMIT and to acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the unceded lands of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups. I always find it particularly important to do an acknowledgement of country when we are at an event like this, which is all about language and culture, and to acknowledge that many Indigenous languages and cultures have been lost. I would also like to add, not necessarily as an RMIT representative, but personally, a huge disappointment with the recent result of the referendum. I think I'm probably among friends here, I can say that. So as a prerogative of having organised the event at RMIT, I would like to plug another event tomorrow. If anyone is interested, there are some flyers there. And this is about community interpreting in Japan. So if anyone is interested, please grab a flyer. We would be very happy to see you back here tomorrow. And a couple of housekeeping things. The toilets, if you haven't seen them, are just next to the lifts, so sort of that way and round the corner to the left. Please have your mobiles off or on silent. And just to let you know that we are recording the event, you won't appear. We are literally just recording the speakers at the front. But if you have any questions, of course, you ask questions, they will be recorded. So please let us know if you don't wish to be heard on the recording. And with that, I will hand over to Rob from AALITRA.
Thanks, Kerry. Could I make a huge thank you to Kerry, who's put in a lot of work to make this event possible. We are meeting here at RMIT, and the logistics have been difficult, to say the least. So thanks so much, Kerry, for helping to organise this event. It's great to see so many of you here tonight for our inaugural AALITRA translation slam, or joust, as I believe it's called in French. We believe this is the first time that an event like this has taken place on Australian soil, and we're very excited to have such a distinguished panel of speakers. I'd just like to say a couple of words about AALITRA before we go to those speakers. We are the Australian Association for Literary Translation, and if you're interested in any of our activities, we do have some flyers out on the table there as well as some sign-up forms. So I'll just say a couple of words about AALITRA. We do publish an online journal which carries articles and translations by members. We have a database of Australian literary translators, and we're a national organisation that promotes interest in all aspects of literary translation. Also, I'd like to thank a couple of other people. Lilith Thwaites, our president, who has helped also to make this event possible, and Elaine Lewis, the indomitable Elaine Lewis, who despite having left the committee of AALITRA some years ago, seems to be as involved as ever in our events. Yeah, a round of applause for our organisers. Thanks very much. So, on to our jousters for tonight. Our joust will be moderated by Mireille Vignol, and Mireille is an experienced hand at this, and she will explain in a moment just what this involves. A few words on her. She spent 18 years in... Where are you, Mireille? Ah, there we are. She spent 18 years in Australia and returned to France following a career as a journalist, specialising in Oceania and then in literature at the ABC. She's been working as a literary translator since her return to France in 2002. She's translated over 60 works by famous authors of Australian literature, as well as books by Oceanian, North American, South African and English writers. She's especially proud to work with Au Vent des Îles, which are publishers from Tahiti. So welcome, Mireille. Then we have over here Catherine de Saint-Phalle, who's had 9 books published, 5 in France with Actes Sud and Boucher-Chastel, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, 4 in Australia with Transit Lounge. 2 of her radio plays were broadcast by France Culture. She left France in 2003 to live in Australia and describes this as the best decision she's ever made. As well as her fiction writing, she's translated and adapted Jack Kerouac's On the Road for France Culture Radio, where it was broadcast as a series of 20 episodes in 2005. And additional books have been released, including a memoir, Poum et Alexandre, which was shortlisted for the Stella Prize. Her most recent work is a novel, Call Me Marlowe, published by Transit Lounge. Welcome as well, Catherine. Oh, great. If you'd like to inspect them and possibly buy them as well, there are some books for sale at the end also. And lastly, Frances Egan. Dr. Frances Egan is an early career researcher and lecturer in Monash University's Intercultural Lab. She teaches in the Bachelor of Global Studies and has research expertise in Francophone literature, intersectionality, and French feminisms. She has a PhD in translation studies in French from the University of Melbourne and the Sorbonne, and is working on a new English translation of Colette's novel La Vagabonde for Oxford University Press. And she has just returned, she tells me, from Arles in the south of France, where she's been working on this translation. So welcome also, Frankie. I'd now like to hand over to Mireille to just say a few words about how this slam will operate, and then to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Also, to Frankie.
Okay, is that okay? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so welcome, and welcome, and thank you for coming. So many of you, that's really good. Briefly, this is how a translation slam works. A month ago, I sent to Frances and Catherine a text in French. They translated without having anything to do with each other. A week ago, they sent me their translations, and basically I just sort of looked at them. You will see, it will be fun. They're very different. So this is what we're trying to show. Although it's supposed to be a slam, although it's supposed to be a joust or whatever medieval catastrophe, it's actually just to show how we work as a literary translator. It's a really great profession. It's like a big game, a big puzzle to sort of make this voice of a writer appear in another language. And everything is a matter of choice. So we choose every time and that's what you will see as well. Every time we write a word, it's a choice, because there could be 50 other words that would work, but we choose this one. And we will try to understand why with Catherine and Frances' choices. It's not about who is going to be the best. Maybe Frances is going to find that some of Catherine's stuff is better than hers at times, and vice versa. It's just about showing how much of our personality comes into the text. In France, we are paid, it's a copyright job. We are the authors of our translation. Therefore, we really have the responsibility over the text, and that's why it's important that we own the text and that we sort of understand why we go this way rather than that way. About the text itself, about La Vague, just a quick word. Ingrid Astier, she's a French writer. She writes detective stories. She wrote the first book that was happening with the Brigade Fluviale, which are the cops on the Seine River in Paris. And she really likes to always have a different angle on things. This book is set in Tahiti. It's set in, now I know that you've been practicing how to say the name of the wave, Teahupo'o. Okay, this is a major monster wave in Tahiti. And this is where the Olympic Games, the surf event for the Olympic Games, the French Olympic Games next year, will be set. And it's a bit of a controversy actually at the moment, because they want to build this huge tower which will destroy the reefs there. And it's a very, it's like a peninsula. There's Tahiti, the island, and then there's the peninsula of where that wave is. And it's very marginal. It's really surfies and all sorts of people that are a bit on the edge. So that's what this book talks about. It was before she knew that it would be for the Olympic Games, that the Olympic Games would be there. And it's about the problem with ice. There's a lot of ice in Tahiti. It's about marginal people. It's about Polynesians trying to make sense of their life in a still colonial context, with France being still the power in French Polynesia. So, and of course, it's a detective story, so there is weird things happening. So that's what we're going to be doing. So if you want to join me, this is great. I don't have to hold the microphone. So what we'll do at first is that we will read just a little bit of the beginning so that you get a sound, you know, a sense of the sound of the language. And then we will go back and we will really get into the nitty-gritty. This book, yeah. Thank you. And also I want to thank really Frances and Catherine to agree to do that, because it's a very difficult exercise, because then you look and go, oh, maybe I should have put that. Oh, no, what did I think of that? And I want to point out that this is not what a published translation would be. A published translation has been seen usually by the editor first time, then by a proofreader. So this is a rough, basically a first draft. I mean, okay, they did a good job, but this is a first draft. So that's what we've got to keep in mind as well. And also, and after that, we go on. Strangely, in literary translation, we always, nearly always translate into our native tongue. So I translate English fiction into French. And I'd say, well, I won't say any percentage because I don't know, but a lot of translators work like that. But Catherine is an exception because she's bilingual, so therefore she translates into English, although you're a French speaker, you're bilingual. So
yeah, I learned the two languages
at the
together.
yeah. So most of the time this will be, like Frances is an English speaker who learned French and translates into English, and I do the other way around. Okay, so we'll read these. We'll start with you, Frances. You're blue, you're red, I'm black. Yeah, I will go, yeah.
Thanks for introducing Mireille, and thank you everyone for organising this. It is really exciting to be part of it, and I'm glad you flagged that it's a draft, because I don't want too much judgment. All right. The first thing Lascar noticed as the guy got onto his boat without a word was the matching rash guard and shorts, stars and stripes. Well, that was a first. On the phone, the man had simply said that he wanted to surf Teahupo'o, had vaguely inquired about the weather conditions and asked about the cost. Lascar had hesitated. The voice was authoritative, arrogant, a perfect fit for the person now standing in front of him, an asshole. The whole thing would be over with barely a glance and a couple of crumpled notes, unless Teahupo'o decided otherwise. Honestly, the wave could detect humility. Teahupo'o never lied. Lascar throttled up and left the marina. In the sun, the palm trees took on a silvery sheen. At the bow, the man was finishing his cigarette. His bleached cowlicks hung over the board he was waxing. The wave was coming closer and he threw his butt into the water. Above, indifferent to the fate being decided, the clouds clung to the mountains.
Okay, so that's Frances's version. Now, Catherine? Yeah.
So the guy set foot on his boat with barely a nod, barely a word. With his lycra top matching his shorts, you couldn't miss him. Stars and stripes first. On the phone, the man had just said that he wanted to surf Teahupo'o. He'd been vaguely concerned about the forecast and had asked about prices. Lascar had hesitated. The voice had been bossy and arrogant. This bastard in front of him suited it perfectly. It would all wind up with a few crumpled banknotes and no eye contact. Unless Teahupo'o decided otherwise, it had to be said the wave had a humility sonar, and its sonar never lied. Lascar stepped on the gas and left the marina. The palm trees stood in a silvery haze of sun. At the bow, the guy was finishing his cigarette. His bleached tufts hung over his board as he waxed it. The wave was coming close, and he threw his cigarette butt in the water. Up there, the clouds were hooked to the mountain tops, quite indifferent to the fate below them.
Okay, and we'll do the French, the original version. Le type monta sur son bateau presque sans un mot, et Lascar remarqua d'abord le top en lycra assorti aux shorts. Stars and Stripes. On n'y avait jamais encore fait le coup. Au téléphone, l'homme lui avait juste dit qu'il voulait surfer Te Aupo. S'était vaguement inquiété des conditions météo et avait demandé le prix. Lascar avait hésité. La voix était autoritaire, arrogante. Et il avait désormais sous les yeux exactement la personne qui allait avec. Un enfoiré. Tout se terminerait sans un regard et quelques billets froissés. Sauf si Te Aupo en décidait autrement. Pour dire le vrai, la vague avait un détecteur d'humilité. Un détecteur qui ne mentait jamais. Lascar mit les gaz et quitta la marina. Sous le soleil, les palmiers prirent des reflets argentés. À l'avant du bateau, l'homme finissait de fumer. Ses épis décolorés surplombaient sa planche qu'il waxait. La vague approchait et il jeta son mégot dans l'eau. Au-dessus des montagnes, les nuages restaient accrochés, indifférents au sort qui se jouait. Okay, so it was just to give you a taste of the sound of it. Now we're going to go slide by slide, bit by bit, and I'm going to see if I can get some explanations. So I'll start with this. The guy is called Lascar, okay? Now Lascar is not just a name. And I'm just wondering whether you two have an opinion about translating first names. Should we have translated Lascar? I wouldn't have, by the way, but, you know, if you look at Tintin, for instance, the dog in Tintin is called Snowy in English, it's called Milou in French. In Harry Potter, all the names, and they are very, you know, funny names, they are translated. They find another joke. And I'm just wondering here whether we should have translated Lascar or not. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess it depends if it goes with the rest of the feeling of the text, and something like Harry Potter where perhaps the names have some, they come into the story in some way in terms of the plot, with things like Voldemort, and then it comes back that it's death and we move the letters around. In this case, I decided not to, but you are making me think. What about you, Catherine?
I agree with Mireille because, for example, in Asterix, they're very well translated, but it's the only case. Because I think Milou is just a fantastic name, and to call him Snowy, I don't know, it's corny, I think, a bit. But, and especially a name like Lascar, even if the meaning is, I agree with you, I mean, if the meaning would not be clear for English speakers, the onomatopoeia, the Lascar, you know, you can sense it's which means a bit of a bandit, a bit of a jerrycan, a bit of a... Yeah, a jerrycan.
Yeah, but it's funny, the meaning in French, it's, well, it's an East Indian sailor, I think, originally, and that's sort of also in English, but obscure in English. But in French, it's really a bit of a streetwise guy, you know, a bit of a, shyster. Or rascal, and it can be quite affectionate.
But if they called him rascal, it would be a bit corny.
Yes, it would, yeah.
And I guess the other thing is the fact that we know, the English reader as well knows that we're in Tahiti where the language is French. So if we decide to take it out of that context, it's also a big decision in terms of losing the origins of the text.
And that's a good point. Okay, the other things that, you know, I noticed straight away with this beginning is that you changed the structure, right? You decided to make two sentences. So the guy set foot on his boat with barely a note, barely a word. Stop. Another sentence with his lycra top matching. So in French, it's one big sentence. So why did you do that? And why did you add this barely a nod?
I think the people at the back are having trouble hearing you.
Oh.
So if we maybe, you want to try that?
Hello, hello?
Is that better?
Hello? No?
Are That one needed to turn. Could you hear that one all right?
Yeah, but then they won't hear.
Can you hold it and see if that makes any difference?
Hello, hello? Oh, yes.
Everybody awake now?
Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, do let us know if you can't see or can't hear. So why did you break it into 2 sentences? And why did you add with barely a nod, which is not in the French?
I know.
I know you know.
I felt that the emotion of Lascar was, sorry, I felt that the emotion of Lascar's emotion was the most important thing, his exasperation. And it didn't matter the sequence. What mattered that got through, and the emotion came first. The fact that he was rude, and already his hackles were raised by that dreadful fellow. And so I just felt I was obeying. In French, it works because French is a feminine language that's very logical, and English is a masculine language that's very intuitive. That's what I think, anyway.
Well,
so the French...
That's a first. I haven't heard that one before.
The French can carry on like a pork chop, do a long phrase, and you just swim into it. But the English, they need... That's why all the songs are written in English. You need to get to the... English just gets to the point. And French, they just meander. So that's why I did it like that.
What do you think of that?
I like the sounds in yours, Kathleen, the boat and then barely and then barely. I didn't, I like that. I didn't break it up, but I did change the order.
Oh, you do plenty of that later on too, don't worry.
Yeah.
They sort of take it in turns.
We're both disobedient.
I just felt as though with this one, if I started with the guy, yours works, I think, because you broke it up, Catherine. But for me, starting with the guy put too much emphasis on guy. And I felt like the first thing was the arrogant stars and stripes. That was what was key. So I put that first.
That's interesting because it's visual. And me, it was more...
Emotional.
Yeah, it's very, yeah.
Okay. And, you know, with barely a nod, barely a word, I think you sort of... took it over, and you have a tendency there to rewrite a bit, to make it, to appropriate the text, which is, it's not a judgment at all. I think it's, that's how it works sometimes. Now we've got enfoiré. Oh, what a great word, enfoiré. So an enfoiré for you is an asshole, but for you it's a bastard. And you sort of, again, you change the sentence to sort of, instead of having another sentence, a bastard, you said this bastard instead of person, you made person the bastard. So that's interesting. But then this is a really big thing. How do we translate, slang, and how do we translate these sort of words? And what do they mean to us? And enfoiré is probably... It's got a name. You're the academic. You will know that. It's those words like when we say sugar instead of saying shit. When you use a variation so that you don't say the dirty word. Yeah, but there's one. Anyway, that's what it is, because enfoiré would be probably enculé in another. Yeah. So it's to make it sort of more palatable. It becomes enfoiré, but it's.
But that's not all of it, asshole. There's no action, and neither me. There's no.
Yeah.
I think for both of us, it might have been sounds. For me, it was that I had authoritative, arrogant, and there was lots of similar sounds in the French. So I wanted A, whereas for you, bossy, bastard. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, probably.
Clever. Yeah.
It's funny. Naturally, I would have translated that by fuckwit. But
Wow, yeah.
there you go. And see, this is what happens. We all have a range of terms that we sort of like to use, or that we sort of feel much better than others. It could have been like someone in the States would have maybe said a jerk. And also that's, okay, translation is also depends on who you translate for. is your readership, who reads you. So of course, you know, you have to keep that in mind. And now we've got a détecteur d'humilité. Okay, so the wave could detect humility, okay, and the wave had a humility sonar. It was difficult because I think there was a bit of a joke with détecteur d'humidité, you know, humidity sensor. So like humility sensor. And I'm not sure whether that, I think there was a bit of a joke, like a bit of a pun in French. But you talk about a sonar, and later on there will be a sonar, right?
Well, no, because later on there is a sonar, but I switched them. I put sonar at the stop, and I took and then I used another term later on because if not, it would have. So I switched them. I thought it was better because sonar is like detecting something very subtle.
Yes.
And at the same time, it was a bit like détecteur d'humidité, but you.
Yeah.
Humility. I don't know. I didn't want to use. What was it? The second one? I can't remember now. I've got the absence.
Sensor, humidity.
No,
humidity.
later on in the text.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
So it was because I didn't want to use it twice, so
Yeah.
I chose to. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, but it's a strange choice to when you have. Oh no, it's detector. Yeah, when you have sonar in French, you put something else rather than having, you know, detector. Anyway, okay, so yes. Right.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, or maybe something with the radar, you know, like also there was the gaydar at one stage was talk about, like there was this sense of radar, maybe something as well. Yeah, look, that's a good solution, and I think you use that later on. That's when
That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah,
That's
bullshit artist. What was it? No.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, you know, yes, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so. Next one, not much to say. I mean, you've heard and you've seen how different those two versions were. And there's also, like, for instance, when you talk about cigarette butt, and here you only have the butt, and it's also about context, you know, because we know he's smoking, you don't need to say cigarette butt.
I do, because, sorry, because I saw him putting his butt in the water.
Okay.
So I had to put cigarette, because all I could see was his stupid butt in the water.
And that is true, you know, that is true. Sometimes it's just, you think, oh, that people are
I
going to...
tried to take it off because I thought it was better, but I couldn't, because all I could see.
Well, I don't know. The wave was coming closer and he threw his butt. Yeah, I see what you mean now. Okay. Okay, so we'll just read slide by slide now. And we'll just read in English, I suppose. We don't really need to hear the French.
No, it's nice to read in French.
Yes.
Okay, so start, Frances, and...
Well, why don't you start in French?
Yeah.
Because of what my mother told me. So my mother came to a reading. It was a poetry reading, and it might well have been Peter Bakowski's poetry reading in France. And so we had the English and the French. And, you know, because it's written in English, I said, let's start with the English. Read in English, then I would read it in French. And my mom said later, you know what? We hear this in English. We don't have any idea what he's talking about. And then we hear it in French. Why don't you start with the French? We know what it's about. And then we hear it in English. And then we know what it's about, and we dress the meaning with what we hear.
You already said it, but now it's dropped down.
I guess here we have the text in English. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but her mother told
For
her.
those who don't speak, yeah, come on.
I'll go. There was an offshore wind. The bastard was lucky as well as insufferable. What was his name again? Lascar jogged his memory as the foam pounded the sides of the boat. Taj. Yes, it must have been Taj. Well, bienvenue, Taj. Welcome to hell. This is Teahupo'o, the wall of skulls. The man took off his hooded jacket and applied sunscreen like war paint. He got into the water. Lascar was convinced the party would not last long.
Catherine.
So, as well as being unbearable, this pain in the neck was lucky. The wind was offshore. What was his name again? Lascar jiggled his memory as foam surged against the hull. Taj. Yes, that was it. Taj. Well, welcome, Taj. Welcome to hell. This is Te Ahupo, the wall of skulls. The man took off his hoodie and smeared on his war paint of suntan lotion. Then he got into the water. Lascar was suddenly convinced that the show wouldn't be a long one.
Le vent était offshore. En plus d'être imbuvable, ce salopard avait de la chance. Comment s'appelait-il déjà? Lascar secoua sa mémoire, tandis que l'écume battait les flancs du bateau. Taj? Ouais, ça devait être Taj. Eh bien, welcome, Taj. Bienvenue en enfer. Ici, c'est Te Ahupo, le mur des crânes. L'homme retira sa veste à capuche et se fit des peintures de guerre avec la crème solaire. Puis il se mit à l'eau et Lascar eut la conviction que la fête foraine n'allait pas durer longtemps. Okay, so you've noticed here that offshore, and there's a lot of surfy slang, French surfies, and they use a lot of English. So, you know, waxé we had at one stage too. You know, that's something you will find a lot in this text. But then when we say welcome, you translate it into French.
Yeah, and maybe an editor would take it out. I don't know. I just felt as though there is a lot of English in the text, and I understand that the relationship isn't symmetrical in the English, that the English makes sense in the French because surfers use English terms, and the French doesn't really make sense in the English, except that I felt that it gave a bit of the Tahiti context back, perhaps, so that we felt some of the original language. And I think, you know, there's a lot of talk in translation circles about the dominance of English and the fact that we just, I guess, bring everything into a smooth way of talking and lose the other cultures and contexts when English is so dominant that could be a problem. So I thought if I could just throw a couple of French words in there, but it was hard to work out which ones could work.
Well, it could be, I mean, you could imagine that some surfers, you know, English speaking, would say bienvenue because they're in Tahiti.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's, you know, that is a possibility. I don't know if I would, look, it's again, it's a matter of choice for that. So we noticed too, I haven't highlighted it, but you've got crème solaire. I mean, she's got crème solaire. You've got sunscreen and you have suntan lotion. Yeah, it's funny. You're tanning, you're burning. Maybe that's good. Maybe your skin is sort of telling us a bit about your choice here. Then we've got this last sentence. Lascar eut la conviction que la fête foraine n'allait pas durer longtemps. So you said Lascar was convinced the party would not last long, and Lascar was suddenly convinced that the show wouldn't be a long one.
Well, show because he's a show-off, isn't he?
Yes. And in fête foraine is like, what would that be in English? A fun fair.
A fun fair.
Yeah, so you'd have, you know, the bearded lady and all this sort of stuff. So there's a sort of freaky little bit.
But the showing off, I thought he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think show is better than party maybe in this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. And it's funny how you translated eut la conviction by suddenly convinced. And I think it's right, you know. I think
because the passé simple is the present of the soul. It's the present that remembers, isn't it? So, yeah. So suddenly would be a bit passé simple.
Yes. Okay. Do you have anything else to add for that? No? Okay. So we'll just read this one. And if any of you want to add something, or, you know, you're welcome to do that. Frances. No, hang on.
No. Oh, I'm
Oh, wait.
on the wrong page.
Yeah.
Beneath the clear water, the flag's 50 stars. As you forgot one, Lascar muttered, the best one. He smiled to himself as the man stretched out on his board.
Catherine?
The flag's 50 stars now shivered in the water. Taj, you forgot one, mumbled Lascar, the best one. You forgot your lucky star. He smiled to himself while the man, lying prone on his board, paddled smoothly towards the lineup. Hyro was already there. He must have arrived first. Hyro always arrived first.
Okay, there's something interesting. You said shivered in the water instead of shivered in the sea. And it's funny because you didn't realize it. No, you said water.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
It doesn't matter. It's just, it's a really good, yeah, but it's a really good thing to do, to read a translation aloud, a bit like, Le Gueuloir. So it's a good idea to do that, to sort of read it aloud. And sometimes you make a mistake that tells you that maybe that word is better or not. And in poetry especially, it's really important to read the text aloud. So I'll read it in French. Dans l'onde transparente tremblaient désormais les 50 étoiles du drapeau. Taj, tu en oubliais une, marmonna Lascar, la meilleure. Tu as oublié ta bonne étoile. Et il se sourit à lui-même, tandis que l'homme, allongé sur sa planche, ramait souplement vers le line-up. Hiro était déjà là. Il aurait dû arriver le premier. Il avait dû arriver le premier. Hiro arrivait toujours le premier. Okay. Anything particular here?
I'm sorry, I just disagree a little tiny thing. Is Hero was always first? No, oh no, sorry.
He must have been the first.
I just thought that it was like a bit of a competition, but it's not because he's dedicated to his thing. So he's there first, not to be the first, but
Yeah,
to... it's like he's not a champ. Well, he is a champion, but it's not for that reason. It's nearly a mystical appointment with the Te Ahupo. So he's there because he gets up before anybody because he needs to be there. So I thought, I don't know. Do you understand what I mean?
Il avait dû is just, he probably...
Arriver toujours le premier in French, he's right, because it's the
probably,
same.
He probably arrived there first. That's, I don't think you've got to read much into that.
No? Oh, okay, I did.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Hiro. Yeah, Hiro, definitely. Okay. Okay, Frances, do you want to read?
That seemed to trap the light and soothe the eye. Lascar greeted the mountains as he did every time. Then he scanned past her, but his dolphin friends had decided.
Lascar extended a fist in his direction. Dawn was breaking. Small pink clouds were popping about and dancing everywhere. Tirelessly, ferns slid down the old volcano slopes and infused the air with a dazzling green that caught the light and imprisoned the eye in its otherworldly softness. As he did each time, Lascar greeted the mountains. He then scrutinized Avae's pass, but this time his friends, the dolphins, hadn't bothered coming along with him.
Lascar tendit le poing dans sa direction. L'aube se levait. Partout, des petits nuages roses dansaient. Les fougères dévalaient inlassablement les pentes des anciens volcans et donnaient cette couleur d'un vert irréel, un vert qui aurait piégé la lumière tant il caressait le regard. À chaque fois, Lascar saluait les montagnes. Il scruta ensuite la passe de Havae, mais ses amis les dauphins n'avaient pas daigné l'accompagner. Okay, so first thing I noticed that, again, you've added something here, Catherine.
Right.
Yeah, we're popping about and dancing everywhere, while in French they just dance.
I know, but if you say the clouds are dancing in English, it's corny, I think. You know that? It's not. But if you add popping, it brings it down.
Yeah, but it's a bit corny in French. Des petits nuages roses. I mean, it's little pink clouds.
Oui, mais en French, I don't know. French is corny. I mean, it's a feminine language.
It did feel like a corny text. I didn't have the the language. I wanted to read about,
Yeah, but it's very dark, so it's. I think she plays with that. Okay, and then we've got the ancien volcan. So you translated as dormant, and you as old.
I think they're old and dormant, but I chose dormant because rather than translating the text, how do people describe?
So you see the work that goes into that. It's really, it's not just looking at a text and translating, it's looking at the context. And that's, that is really important.
And I think I chose old because it's such an old land. And you imagine the old volcano like an old man, who could become grumpy and overflow. And I think, so it was more emotional maybe, but super interesting. Which
And again, you turned the sentence around, or?
Did I?
Tirelessly.
Oh,
Yeah, you started with tirelessly, and but you turned it around as well. You started with the place on the dormant volcanoes, and you started with tirelessly. And in French, she starts with the ferns. So, it's also, there's a whole game of trying to change the sentence around and to really play with the order so that it sort of flows. And what will flow with Frances won't flow with Catherine and vice versa. So it's all about, matching the structure to your way of expressing yourself. Now, that was a bit strange, La Passe de Hawaii. Why did you keep it in French?
Again, I wanted some of the context. I did look up English descriptions of the place, and some people had it with Passe Hawaii.
Right. Okay. All right, anything else?
like when they're surfing? Like when they're surfing? No, a fist, what?
A check, sort of, yeah.
No, when they surf, because he says at the end they surf like that to get through the wave. So it's probably the way surfers say hello.
Yeah.
Not,
Because
not
it's
hi Hitler, but say. No, it's not. I think it's really like that, extended.
Yeah,
It's not
because
a raised
it's his hero, right? It's about hero.
Yeah.
So he's just says, but he could be going, well, in his direction, I think, yeah. But it's a salute, it's a salute to his friend hero who's already
Where
there.
is it in the French?
Tendit le poing dans sa direction.
Tendre, so
Yeah.
extend, so
Yeah.
it's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enfin,
It's hero. It's the guy. If you look at the time, hero always arrive first, and then Lascar, So it is about his friend hero. Yeah, he's there, so he's greeting him. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just
Yep.
for this description of the light.
Yes.
I think you've done some really interesting things with that. Trying to get an image in your
Yeah.
of this description. So I shifted it a bit, but I like how you've really taken on board
thank you.
the light.
This is the thing too. Yeah, sometimes part of the translator job is to sort of find out what the hell do they mean, and to really sort of have to break down and visualize it. You're right. It's really very difficult, especially if it's happening in a complex sort of place, and you sort of need. They go from here, they go there, and sometimes people draw maps. Translators draw a map of a place to sort of have a good sense of who's going where, what, and all that. But yeah, that was also it's true that Ingrid Astier, she has a strange way. It's very well written, but it's sort of difficult. The images are a bit sort of strange sometimes, and that's another thing too. If it is a bit strange in French, you want to make it strange in English because the intention is there. So you have to be very careful not to sort of make something that's very flowing and easy to listen to, but that won't have the intention at the beginning. So if it's rough in the language of origin, you have to make it rough in the other language. Okay, Frances.
Sure, you had to win the dolphins over. It was as if they could sense. Lascar thought he'd seen it all, from surfers to onlookers, but not that overinflated ego. Who was this guy? Actually, he reminded him of someone. At the jetty, he'd seemed worked up, the kind of guy who had to be adjusted.
It was because of his guest. He was convinced of that. Dolphins could only be deserved. Surely they had their own bullshit detector. He had been bringing men to the Te Ahupu'o wave for 15 years. From surfers to sightseers, Lascar felt he had seen everything. But never had he seen such an oversized ego in the water. Who could this guy be? Yet he reminded him of someone. He had noticed how excited he was on the pontoon, the kind of guy who needed a transformer to socialize.
À cause de son note, il en était persuadé. Les dauphins se méritaient, à croire qu'ils avaient un sonar à connard. Depuis 15 ans qu'il menait les hommes sur la vague de Te Aupo, des surfeurs au badaud, Lascar pensait avoir tout vu. Mais pas cet égo surdimensionné dans l'eau. Qui pouvait être ce type? Il lui rappelait pourtant quelqu'un. Au ponton, il l'avait trouvé très excité, le genre de mec qui a besoin d'un transformateur pour sociabiliser. Okay, so there's a few things here. Les dauphins se méritaient. So you had to win the dolphins over, and dolphins could only be deserved. Any other idea, maybe, for translating this sentence?
You had to be.
Yes. I think that's probably more closer to the meaning. You had to be worthy of the dolphin, otherwise they won't come and bother with you. Yeah. Okay.
I like dolphins.
Okay.
There's an element of
Okay.
even though perhaps the other is preferable.
And that's exactly what it is. You know, we have also just, it's a matter of taste sometimes. What sounds good to you might sound not so good to someone else. But in terms of the meaning, I think it's closer to, yeah, you have to be worthy of the dolphins. So it was so a sonar à connard, of course, it's where we find the sonar for the first time in the French text. But then you don't put sonar. You have the bullshit detector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like that word.
But I think I like it too, but I don't think it's quite exact here. No. Because it's a connard, it's not a connerie. A connerie would be bullshit, but a connard is the actual person. He sort of detects people. So you've kept connard. That was a cop-out, wasn't it? Okay, it was good.
Yeah, I just felt, you know how you said translating slang? I felt like slang was the easiest spot because for a regular word, it doesn't make sense. But something like sonar, connard, I noticed with there's a lot of rhyme, which I don't think we would do the same in English. So that was true.
Okay. Anybody's got a good suggestion for sonar à connard?
I like bullshit detector.
Ah, yes.
Therefore, it's a deliberate choice of the author to have it with dolphins.
That's pretty savvy.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
The sonar, I mean, that's why I would have kept sonar here rather than put it before. But it's difficult to
Yeah,
read.
but before
Konar
it
is
was-
the you know.
Didn't go before.
Before, I would have had the wave having its own detector.
Right.
I don't see why
Or
the
sensor.
detector was changed to
Right.
sensor. It was a detector. It detected you.
No, I think they had detector. Or
No, I didn't. I think
you had detector.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I was struggling with it as a noun. I think it works as bullshit detector, but the fact that
No.
the French keeps using noun and detector, I kept wanting to make detect just instead of detector, sonar, transformer. I was struggling with the nouns working.
Right. Yeah. I think it's true that, you know, bullshit detector works well, but it's not exactly the meaning. But then I think we're close enough in a way to the intention. Oh, yes. Right. Well, exactly. You wanted to keep the rhyme, so you could do that. A sonar for Kona, yeah. Yeah.
Although to me, not being a French
The bullshit detector. Yeah. Dickhead, you know. But do we have a good term in English that is, you know, an insult and that ends with R? Not really. R is bastard. No, yeah. It doesn't really rhyme with sonar. Okay, let's move on. I like the way that ego surdimensionné, you had overinflated ego, thought that was good, and you had something oversized ego, so that worked well too.
Overinflated is better though.
Yeah, I think overinflated might be a bit better. So what I noticed there is that we've got le genre de mec, and you both translated by guy, and when she had type, you translated by guy as well. And I was wondering whether you didn't want to find another word. Since, you know, you translated type by guy.
There's only one.
Exactly. I felt the same.
What about a bloke?
No, that's too English.
To English?
Yes.
The sentimental bloke? Well, yeah, that's a good one.
A dude.
Dude. Of course.
Dude
And
is
mec,
a nice guy.
no,
and
not necessarily.
guy, no? Oh,
Yes.
maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I'd vote for that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude.
Or a fella. A fella.
Oh, no.
No. You see, this is funny. They're just, no.
Fella's affectionate.
Yeah, but I mean, this is mec. Mec can be
Mec.
very affectionate.
Oh, do you think so? Yeah, dude's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and mec is really, you know, slangish in French. Mec. Anyway, so yeah. So we'll have to write a collective version at the end. So then that was a strange one, okay? He besoin d'un transformateur pour se sociabiliser. So you chose to be quite distant, let's say, adjusted, like more general.
I was thinking more in like psychological terms that like someone needs adjustment, but that it's also some sort of I thought of like a converter.
Yes, because the intention, you know, we have excité before. It seemed worked up, excited. So the idea is that, yeah, he's so excited that he needs a transformer to be able to socialize. Like he needs something to, but it's a strange, very strange.
Yeah, but it's a motor kind of word, you know. Is there transformers in motors?
It's electrical. I
Yes?
think.
Ah. So it goes, you know, you just switch him around and turn the switch and then he'll become, you know, normal, just
Able to
viable.
socialize. You wanted to say something? It's supposed to be a drug reference. I don't think so. Although there's a lot of drugs coming up, but in the book, I mean, yeah. Yeah, but why did you say that? Sorry, that's interesting, because do you think it's... Right. Yeah, yeah. But transformateur, I don't see that as being a slang for okay, anyway, needed a transformer to socialize, so you stayed very close to the text.
Yeah, I
for a
liked
change.
it. Yeah.
Okay, Frances.
For here, Andy Warhol's renowned 15 minutes of fame. YouTube had brought that down to 1 minute of showing off, but on a world scale. Also, Taj was a strange name. From the look of him, more likely Hawaii. Another guy from Kauai thought he was Andy Iron.
Catherine?
Oh, what was he looking for? Andy Warhol's famous 15 minutes of fame? YouTube had now reduced it to a minute of hoo-ha, but on the scale of humanity. As for Taj, that was a weird first name. Did he come from California, Florida? From his look, one would rather suppose Hawaii. Another guy from Kauai who took himself for Andy Irons.
Que cherchait-il ici? Le fameux quart d'heure de célébrité d'Andy Warhol? YouTube l'avait réduit désormais à 1 minute. 1 minute de frime, mais à l'échelle de l'humanité. Et Taj, c'était un drôle de prénom. Venait-il de Californie, de Floride? Vu la dégaine, plutôt d'Hawaï. Oui, il aurait parié sur Hawaï. Encore un mec de Kauai qui se prenait pour Andy Irons. Okay, so it's funny in this part because there's a lot of words, you know, apart from frime, where you sort of had a different word, I mean, exactly the same meaning, you know, drôle de nom, you go for strange name, you go for weird first name, and there is another one, you know, who thought he was, who took himself, and that shows you, you know, there's just so many different ways to say the same thing, really, and they don't really, you know, there's not much difference at all. So, but frime, so let's go to frime, showing off for you, and hoo-ha. I like that.
Yeah, I like
Do you want to?
Comment on it?
Yes.
Not really. I wouldn't know what to say.
Okay, where did it come from? A minute of hoo-ha. I mean, is it a set expression? Is it something that would be? Yeah. Okay.
It was just maybe the fact that 1 minute of showing off. Yeah, it was just a short thing, and I think hoo-ha was like the syllables an onomatopoeia rather than something that you can even grasp. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and world scale of humanity. So you stayed closer to the French in this case. Yeah.
Well, because it's about the person, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
But world scale works too, because it's
Yeah. Both work. Yeah. Yep. Yes, sure. Yeah. No, it's famous here. It's, you know, because Andy Warhol said everybody needed the, yeah.
well, that's the text, the original.
Oh, right. That you, yeah, but in English it would be so obvious that you don't need. Is that what you're saying? In English, it would be so obvious that you don't need to say, yeah. Yeah, you could say Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of fame. Yeah, that's a very good point, because sometimes it's, you know, what you need to give explanation to in one language, in another will be like, yeah, all right, you know, it's sort of. Well, everybody knows what that. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Yes, but I think in French you would definitely need to put fameux, because it wouldn't be as obvious, maybe. Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, famous is too much. Yeah, yeah, just. So you're saying that it's just Andy Warhol's 15 minutes would have been enough? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In English, yeah, I think you're right.
It's like a petticoat, too much. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Yes. 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 I wouldn't have put first name either. I think name was enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Another petticoat.
Yeah. Okay, Frances. Don't look. Don't look.
He didn't really care after all. The wave would soon tell him who he was. The board's yellow tip sliced through the blue, resembling on the boat. Lascar put Chemical Brothers on and rolled a joint. The local conquering had never been his nature, even with
Anyway, he didn't give a rat's ass. The wave wouldn't take long to tell him who he really was. Cleaving the blue water, the board's yellow tip became the rapacious beak of the wave. Became the rapacious beak of the wave predator it carried. Lascar turned on Chemical Brothers and rolled up a joint. The local paca would take his mind off these foreigners who turned themselves into conquerors as soon as they set foot on earth or sea. Conquering had never been in his nature, even women. He let them come to him.
Après tout, il s'en fichait. La vague n'allait pas tarder à lui dire qui il était. Fendant le bleu, la pointe jaune de la planche surnagea, bec acéré du rapace braqueur de vagues qu'elle portait. Lascar lança Chemical Brothers sur son bateau et se roula un joint. Le paca local le détendrait de ces étrangers qui se muaient en conquérants dès qu'ils posaient un pied, que ce fût sur terre ou en mer. Conquérir n'avait jamais été dans sa nature. Conquérir n'avait jamais été sa nature. Même les femmes, il les laissait venir. Okay, so I like your rat's ass here. Although il s'en fichait is quite new, you know, there could be a colorful expression in French, but there is not. And probably he didn't really care. He's closer to, you know, s'en ficher, but it's such a great expression. I mean, and you do like to have a language that's more colorful, don't you?
But no, I thought he was a colorful person. He was someone who was quite vernacular, and so I thought that. Et il s'en fichait, c'est le foutre aussi, s'en fout. C'est presque s'en foutre.
Oui.
Donc it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's s'en foutre cleaned up, really. So maybe, yeah.
But that's still a very, very great expression. And the wave. So the wave, you translated the wave this time, but you gave it a capital W.
Well, yeah, because I think it's got a mystical presence, an archetypal presence.
This wave is really, yes.
The wave is, so yeah, I didn't put it everywhere because sometimes it's just, you know, but sometimes to personalize it, well, Hero personalizes it, and Lascar does too.
Yeah. The next sentence, the board's yellow tip, or, you know, it's a very complicated sentence. I mean, in the image is a bit, you know, complicated. But I think you did a good job of it, both of you, in different ways. And then I was just interested in Paca, that you both decided not to translate. And again, it's a matter of context. I mean, here it just rolls a joint, so it's pretty obvious what Paca is. And, you know, that's, if you found Paca without context, you probably would have to, you know, either have a footnote, translate it, or put Paca, comma, you know, cannabis or whatever, or, you know, and just, and it's tricky when you have names that are, you know, not French names in the French text, because then you have to think what to do with them. And but here it worked well because of that. Is there anything else in this page? Anybody's got any comments? No? Okay.
Set his eyes on the horizon as he savoured his first drag. A wave formed.
Catherine?
Luckily, he was a surfer and not a fisherman. Reeling in the line was not his forte. Teasing fishes was what he preferred, like women, except for spearfishing. Enjoying his first puff, he checked the horizon. A swell formed, and Lascar knew that Hyro would leave it to the stranger.
Heureusement qu'il était surfeur et non pêcheur, car remonter une ligne n'était pas son fort. Les poissons, il préférait les taquiner, comme les femmes, sauf en chasse sous-marine. Ses yeux se posèrent sur l'horizon, tandis qu'il appréciait la première bouffée. Une vague se forma, et Lascar sut que Hiro la laisserait à l'étranger. Okay, so it's a bit strange, this spearfishing thing, isn't it? But anyway, you know, sometimes.
I wonder what it's doing there, you know.
Yeah, I found it a bit strange too, but you know, we can't rewrite the book. So ses yeux se posèrent. It's funny because it's set his eyes on the horizon, and he checked the horizon.
Because further down, he checks the horizon another time, so I didn't want to repeat the gesture, and also suppose it's just a kind of quick tuk to see where, just checking it quick. But yeah.
I'm not sure it's that quick.
It was relaxing.
Maybe you're right, yeah. Maybe you're right.
But check doesn't have to be quick either. I mean, or does it?
It is. You check if you've... Have you got your glasses on? You don't? Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's better, set his eyes. But at the same time, I don't know. Because he's a sailor, you know. He's sailing his boat. So I don't know. And there's waves slapping around. I don't know.
And then you have wave and you have swell. Sorry? All right. Yeah. So why did you choose swell and why did you choose wave?
I didn't choose wave, I was just too literal. Because vague just seems like wave automatically.
Swell. Well, there's much more words in English vocabulary than in French. Dictionaries like that, the French like that. They don't like it said, but it's true.
No, we can take it.
And English is richer. There's no question.
But there's a problem. Can you leave the swell to the stranger, or or is it the wave that you leave to the stranger?
You see a swell forming.
Yeah, but look at the rest of the you know, a wave formed. Lascar knew Hiro would let the foreigner take the wave. Can you take the swell? I don't know.
Well,
so that's,
if you're a surfer, maybe you would.
no, especially you're a surfer, yes. But you know, can you take the swell? Is that no? So I think we probably would be better to stick with the wave in
it's
that.
not logical. Yeah.
Okay. Frances? Yep.
Ah, yeah.
Ah, yes. I didn't see that at all. Yes.
I feel like we're going to get into a Camus discussion. For me, it was definitely that he wasn't local. He's also
I felt Foreigner was too nationalistic and he didn't even quite know his nationality. So I thought he was more stranger because he was a bastard, he was nasty, he talked down to people. So he was a stranger in every way, not only in a nation, in a patriotic way. Sorry, I can't find the word.
The nationality way.
Yeah. He was a stranger. It was not. Yeah.
And you didn't associate it with the conquering.
He's wearing the stars and stripes. We already know that.
He's American? Well, I don't know. If you had to buy a dinner to everybody wearing stars and stripes who's not American.
No. He's a tourist, and they say he's from Kauai, probably. There's California and Florida, but
No, you're right. Yeah, he's American. I mean, I think he's established that.
Oh,
Florida is America, Hawaii is America, so yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, that's true. We're going to be moving on to conquering, and yeah, it's that definitely has a.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think both can be sort of justified. Yeah.
Or maybe defended.
Take a vote. Okay. Okay. So maybe we'll just go straight to the points that are interesting. Maybe not this one. Okay. Hero was a master. You have a prince and you have a master. No, you have a prince, sorry. Prince in French, so you have prince and you have master. So I just was interested to see why you didn't want to stick with prince.
France was more natural in French, like Prince des Poètes or something like that.
Okay. What do you think? Prince is okay, yeah? All right.
Also, he had a stature, kind of inner beauty hero. He's got more than just the sport about him.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Okay, and then we have the wave that becomes with 2 capital letters for you, not just one, one for you. And it's funny because in French, this time vague does have a capital V, so it is the wave, that English speakers call chopo, by the way. So you might hear that when the Olympic Games go there and there will be a lot of coverage. They call it chopo, but it's not the way the Tahitians say it. Then, okay, you have the wave as a it, and you have the wave as a she. Okay, so you've given it slide into her and let it wrap him. So
I think there was a sexual connotation also about the wave, and men call their boats a she, and I think it added stature to the wave to make her a she in an archetypal way, because he's masculine, so if he's running after another man, wouldn't work, and he enters her. I mean, it makes sense.
okay.
I mean, my first thought is that French, it does gender things when we don't.
Yes.
And so it felt I felt like it was very old-fashioned in gender terms, and it shocked me that it was a woman writer with very sort of old-fashioned metaphors about reeling in a woman and
Yeah, that was, yeah.
things, which the text does quite a lot, and I do think I need to read the full thing to be aware of whether there's a very big intention there on masculinity and surfing, which there probably is, but I was inclined to, there's quite a few references to men, for example, taking men out to the wave, and I made that and I tended to neutralise the gender.
Okay.
I don't know if I can justify that based on not having read the whole novel.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Ingrid Astier works a lot on recording people, and also she spent a few months with the surfers there. She's someone who really goes deep into research and, you know, being in the context. And so she would probably, I think, replicate a lot of what she heard. So, you know, but that's a good point. Yeah, and yeah, of course, in French it's got to be la vague. So you know, this. Okay. We keep.
Sometimes it's not political, it's just a feeling. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, like we had, forget about the wave. So, the dream of every waterman who deserved the title. In French, le rêve de tout waterman digne de ce nom. And you had the dream of every self-respecting waterman. So I'm not sure what you meant by who deserved the title. I'd sort of...
Yeah, I like self-respecting. I had to look up waterman, to be honest. I was like, I'm not familiar with this word. It felt very strange to me in the French and in English. But then I looked up, I had to do some surfing research. And apparently they do sort of call people a waterman if they're an amazing surfer. I felt like it was sort of,
Right.
someone decides if you get to be a waterman or not.
And especially if it was in English in the original text, it was obviously the right term because they, yeah.
But I thought like digne de ce nom to me was more like worth his salt. You know, that sort of... Not... Yeah, worthy of the name. Yeah, that's... Yeah. Okay, and then again, in a dress for the robe d'écume. So she was the devil in a frothy gown, and you had a dress of froth and foam. Very dramatic. I like that, good alliteration along the way. Okay, elle était belle as damnée. I thought you went a bit... It's a very set expression in French. I mean, it's just, you know, drop dead gorgeous, or belle as a damnée is very, you know, she devil to die for and be damned. I thought you took it a bit far here. Which you can, I mean, you know, it is a possibility. But, I mean, what I'm saying is that it's not, you know, belle as damnée is really not not an unusual. It's pretty... So we had the verre de Murano became Venetian glass or Murano glass. I think that's pretty much 2 dozen of one and whatever the expression is. That's interesting. You know, he places his boat so that he's not entraîné, se faire entraîner. You had dragged in and you had swept away. So I was wondering, and entraîner in French, you don't know.
But wait, to the high sea? That's what I thought, no?
I imagined the boat empty,
Yes.
or like a lagoon. So I felt like I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think she's right.
Yeah, I think she's right. It's the wave that could sort of swallow the boat. I wanted to talk about that one.
Me too. And what was it about?
Well, okay, so, all right. So this is I've asked the author to sort of explain a bit more about it, because I saw that you had you put it in italics. I mean, it was in italics in the text, and I saw that I think you had it. It's not there, but you had it in bold. Yeah, and I went, oh my God, they really. Okay, so basically, I would have translated that as, you know, probably minced meat, Okay, what happens is that there's this huge, enormous wave, and then there's the reef. And if you don't take it properly, you get dragged onto the reef, and your back gets scratched to bits, you know, so you get really, yeah.
Is it strange in the French?
Yeah, it's bloody strange, all right. Yeah, it's strange. It is strange. But this is her explanation. First, she heard the expression. So she says it's a 4-cheese pizza that's, you know, imprinted on their back if they're not careful and get dragged on the reef. So she said she heard the expression, and she said there is a part of humor, like that the surfies would say, you're going to have... she put it in italics, so she's signifying that, you know. And she thinks that it's because they are afraid of this wave, very afraid. So it's the sort of humor you make when you're afraid of something, to make yourself a bit braver. Okay, there's a part of that. Then she says it's the red and ivory white of the pizza, blood and fat, because you sort of, you know, there's a page of it. I'll send it to you. But then she said it reproduces the mosaic of on the mutilated body. It's a mess of skin, flesh, blood, and fat. Yeah, and wait, it's not over. And it's not your gourmet pizza. It's not your gourmet pizza with artichoke, truffle, and rocket. It's a 4-cheese pizza. A basic pizza.
4 cheese is fancy, isn't it?
No. Okay, so, yeah. Yes.
Margarita would be
So I think if you wanted, I think maybe you should have dropped the 4 cheese if you wanted to just say with the pizza on their back, the idea. But if that's, yeah, back looking like a pizza, or move from the pizza. I mean, I've read in books mincemeat, like, you know, when you've got, you know, so maybe it was more an image that was more easily recognizable, or, you know, play with that. But I mean, yes, that was.
I didn't understand it. That's why I put it in bold in despair.
Yes.
It's good to be able to ask the author. I'm just thinking with my author
Okay.
dead.
Yes. Well, yeah. That's sometimes you've got dead authors, and at least they won't whinge. That's one thing. But you know, at the same time, you can't ask them for. But in this case, and you can see how precise it is. She really thought about that. You know, it's not. So of course we have to think about it as well, and then we have to see whether it does work or not. You know, and in this case, I don't think it works very well in English. So we would really have to move to something else. Yeah.
But I didn't understand it. I was just totally lost.
And, you know, like the way I work is that at the end of the translation, I usually write questions, and I will send all the questions to the author. Because, you know, if you can ask, sometimes, you know, you clarify, and you get these little alarm bells when you translate. I don't know if you get that. And you go, yeah, it sounds right, but, And then you check, and you go, ooh, I'm glad I checked. You know, it can be really... So it's a good idea every time you get a little alarm bell that you do actually check, or that when you're completely puzzled, of course. Okay, insensé, insane, unbelievable. I thought it was interesting that, you know, insane and unbelievable, not quite the same, but not that much difference. I'll say that that's a good one. Bouche bée, speechless, you know, and you gobsmacked. And again, bouche bée is not, you know, it's more speechless, or, you know, it's, but gobsmacked is such a great expression. Have a good gig with your accordion. Sorry? Yes, yes. Okay. So do we have time for questions, or are we? No. Couple. Okay, we got one over there. Peter?